James, for instance, is a special snowflake, and he will play what people say is garbage. In Mark II, he religiously played Jackdaw and Parker, and made them work, and was really good at it because he just invested the time and effort. And it just goes to show that even a master that is a little bit under par, if it's played by a good player and it's played, to the maximum efficiency, that you can really make anything work.
Howdy friends, Craig here. This is a long overdue episode featuring players from out in Australia. They had a tournament not too long ago, TeddyFaux, and pretty good number of people, over a dozen people. And we have two of the three people that made Podium, Matthew Overton and James Bryant. What was interesting is this was actually a 40 stone event as opposed to a 50 soul stone event. They did that to make sure that everybody had a chance to get in 5 turns, and also I think to help newer players. It's going to be a special treat for you Terra and Mali players. They both play Terra and Mali a good bit. You get a chance to learn what they played into each pool and how much, kind of what moves they made in order to make it to Podium. Matt has a great move at the start of one of his games using Mali that allowed him to draw a fresh hand of cards before his opponent could even do his first activation. Real interesting to see how he pulled that off. We also hear how each of them brought in specific tech pieces based on the opponent's declared master. I think it's a good little lesson on how to pay attention to really what master is being declared against you, and if there are specific, even out of keyword models you can bring in that can make the difference. James talks about how good the Scion of the Void is into a pool with Vendetta, which I thought was good. And last but not least, we finish off with a nice discussion about how M3E is doing in Australia and what happened to all the podcasts out of Australia. Enjoy.
Playing a tabletop strategy game allows you to unplug and test your skills against friends. Every week, Third Floor Wars delivers useful strategies, discussions, battle reports, and reviews to tabletop games like Malifaux. If you want to get better at the games you already play, or discover the games other people are playing, you are in the right place. Craig and Ray welcome you to the Third Floor and the Tabletop Talk broadcast.
Craig here on the Third Floor. Today we've got two players from Australia that finished on the podium for a recent 3-round event. Now, I miss hearing about Malifaux from Australia. There was a period of time in second edition where I think it was a rule that if you played Malifaux, you had to have a podcast. But that continent has been pretty silent since we've been in third edition. So having somebody from this part of the world has been long overdue. Our first guest is Matthew Overton. Now, he's a henchman. He comes out of Perth, Western Australia, which is where the event occurred. He's a veteran wargamer, has been playing for 20 some odd years, but has made it clear to me that Malifaux is his favorite of all the war games. Our second guest is James Bryant. Now, Malifaux was his first war game, and it's my understanding that it was actually Matt that introduced him to Malifaux. And I've also found out that he is a pretty regular finisher on the podium for those local events. Now, the event itself was called TeddyFaux, and it was 3 rounds. There were 16 players. Matt won the event, and James finished second. We weren't able to get the third place finisher on, but I'm sure he'll come up during our conversations. And what I want to try to do is kind of pick their brains, learn, what lists they brought, what masters they brought, what they faced against, maybe some of the opposing factions as well. And more importantly, want to learn what their path to podium was. So let's start off with you, Matt. Welcome to the Third Floor.
Hey, Craig. Thanks for having us on. Big fan of the show.
Oh, thanks, man. So you're a veteran wargamer. When did you find Malifaux, or when did you start playing war games?
I think like most people, I started with, Warhammer, 40K fantasy, played a heap of War Machine, first, second, and third ed. But between big breaks of War Machine, I found Malifaux. I was dabbling in all the different systems, like in Infinity and the smaller skirmish type systems. Came across Malifaux and I've had little breaks, but really, for the most part, it's pretty hard to beat Malifaux, so I've stuck with it.
Yeah, so I love talking to guys like you, Matt, that have played a lot of different war games, because I think your perspective can be important. I'd be curious, are there things about, say, Infinity or War Machine that you miss that Malifaux doesn't give you, or vice versa? What is it about Malifaux that made it be kind of your first love?
I don't know. It's hard to put it in words. I guess I think maybe the other two systems try a little bit too hard. Like, it's just because a system's more complicated doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it fun. We're all just here playing, with war dolls. And a game that has a million rules and a million models doesn't make it a better game. To me, it makes it just more inaccessible for new players. It's just, like the depth in Malifaux is I think you call it player agency all the time. It's not, you don't win with the gotchas. You don't win with just a sheer amount of rules knowledge. You really do win by just playing the best game of Malifaux.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'll talk about how, the best player typically wins, and I realize that's really not the right way to put it. I think it's the person who made the best decisions during the game usually wins.
Yeah,
which may or may not be the best player, right? but that feeds into that agency concept. That I do think that the decisions in Malifaux matter. And they do decide. Now, don't get me wrong, quote unquote, bad things happen. And there can be some critical flips. But I have found that a lot of times what at first looks like a really just crappy Black Joker flip that was at a pivotal part of the game, that if you kind of go back and look at it, you realize that was just the last word in a bad sentence that you started writing before you flipped that card. And there's decisions you could have made that would have not prevented that flip from happening, but could have made it so that wasn't the point where you started losing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's very rarely, there might be the odd occasion where a game's lost to a Black Joker, but very rarely if it's come down to you losing to a single flip, even if it's a Black Joker, that you didn't have the game in the bag in the first place. If the game's that close, it could have been anyone's game anyway.
So, James, welcome to the third floor.
Thanks for having me.
So, James, you have a kind of a little bit of a different perspective from Matt. It's my understanding that Matt introduced you to Malifaux, but this was your first war game.
Yeah, that's right. I'd tried a few before, but I just didn't feel like they were my thing. Didn't really enjoy them. And then when he showed me Malifaux, I don't know, just clicked.
What was the aspect of it that, quote unquote, clicked for you?
I guess I like the smaller size. I could looking at some of the other ones like 40K or War Machine is like much bigger scale. And I also really like the cards instead of the dice.
Yeah.
Feels better.
And now Matt plays Resurrectionist, but you started with Outcasts and have stayed with Outcasts throughout your whole time, right?
Yes. I've had 10 Thunders at one point, but Outcast was always my main. Always stuck with them for events.
And what was it about Outcasts that made you take them at the very beginning and then stick with them for this long?
So the first time when I first picked them, it was purely because of their symbol, the rose and the dagger. That was the whole reason. Like, oh, that looks cool. I looked at them. My first master was the Vix. It was the only twin masters. It just sounded like a cool concept. Not even my favorite master anymore, but that's what caught my attention at the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny. Earlier, and I don't know whether it'll be released already to the audience or not, but we did an expert roundtable. And one of the things that came up during the conversation is M3 EVIX versus M2 EVIX. Have you had a chance to try them in 3rd edition?
Yes, I have. And I enjoy them more.
So let me hear your take.
Well, I think they're much more mobile now, just the crew in general. They've got amazing abilities with battle tempo. At the beginning of the turn, they all move 2 inches. The Ronin are amazing schemers with their on the move. When they activate, they move 3 inches. They can really get to where they need to go. And when you got the Vix, they seem to be much more killy. In my perspective, I find them much more killy than they were in 2nd edition. And they run around killing everything, and the super mobile crew is just scoring everything.
Yeah. Now, the conversation that we had on the roundtable, is Cody Hyatt, who's a local here in North Carolina and a very good player. He won Nova. The point that he made in that episode is that he feels like the Vicks don't have a place in Outcasts, that that they're perfectly fine, they're good, and they can be very competitive. But he finds that in most pools, they always end up being his second choice, that he can seem to find another Outcast keyword that'll do that pool better. Are you finding it hard to find a place for Vicks, or are they seeing the table?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. In a tournament, I probably wouldn't play the Vicks. I might use them for fun. But yeah, I definitely always have a preferred option for the schemes and strats instead of the Vicks.
And do you think that that's a function, Jim, of like they just need they need something that'll make them unique, or like what is your solution to that? Or is it are we trying to find a solution that isn't a problem?
I honestly don't think it's a problem that needs to be fixed. As he said, they're good. It's not like they're bad, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. Honestly, the way I see it.
Yeah. Matt, do you have any thoughts on that?
There's got to be a lot to be said, surely, about simply having the AP efficiency of two masters for one go, because you like as far as I'm reading the cards, they're not. Well, I haven't seen them on the table, but they don't seem so underwhelming that it can't be. It just seems exceptional that there's two of each of them.
Yep.
Just for like late game, they can certainly do the work and remove the pieces. And then I found the AP. It feels that the AP efficiency would be surely something to look at. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we think of the Vicks as being deadly assassins, but the reality is with both of them having 3 actions and a bonus, and the mobility that they have, it turns out that one or both of them can be incredible scheme runners.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. Now, Matt, as a Reser player, how do you feel about where your faction is right now? Do you think it's in a good place?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're in a really good spot. We surely can't complain. We have a really, really wide staple of very competitive masters. So it's really hard to be disappointed at the moment playing Reses.
Of all of them right now, which one are you focusing on or trying to get better with?
Von Stuck and Molly are certainly my preferred, but I played so much of them leading up to the event that I'm even dabbling now in Neverborn, but that's only going to be periodic, and then it'll be back to Reses. And I'm really interested in Kirai and McMorning. The only thing is I've seen both their new sculpts on the horizon, and I just have this thing where I don't really want to paint up these new pieces when and play with unpainted pieces so soon before new sculpts come out. So I guess that's just a bit of the hobbyist in me putting stuff on the back burner.
Yeah, I struggle with that too, because there's stuff that I want to get going with, and I know new sculpts are coming because we've seen the artwork, and for me it's the Von Stuck. I'm working on my Von Stuck crew now, and I had the luxury of already having the students painted from second edition.
Oh, nice.
But I look at those students, and then I look at the artwork for the new students, and I'm like, I'm going to end up just buying all of it and repainting and painting all of it because those new sculpts compared to the 2E sculpts are incredible.
Absolutely. It's going to be real tough trying to get those all those models into a list, though, because they're all gorgeous, but there's so many of them. Yeah. And there's just such a core staple of a Von Stuck crew. I think more so than any other crew that I've built in any other faction, Von Stuck's staple is just very hard to shift.
Well, it helps the fact that you have a minion in the keyword that you don't struggle to bring. You struggle to only bring one or two or three of them. The big decision in a Von Stuck crew is: do I take one undergraduate? Do I take 2, or do I take 3, or do I take 2 and summon? Von Stuck has a really good minion.
Yeah, I only ever take 2 because then that leaves the 6-point slot up to be opened to be summoned. Is the only 6-point option we have, and if I hit a 6-cost minion, then we're going to want to bring in that third one off that summon, because otherwise you're looking at a Necropunk, which I love as well, but that's not really the summon you're looking for often.
Yeah, you would prefer to do an undergraduate or even a higher costed student, depending on how what you killed to do that replace. So
yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back from this break, we're going to start talking about round one. It was an idols round, and let's find out what James and Matt did in that first round. We'll be right back. All right, so let's talk about round one. Now, round one was was idols. It was the schemes were breakthrough, harness the ley line, take prisoner, assassinate, and claim jump. And the deployment was standard. So looking at the pool itself, you've got breakthrough kind of dictates where that has to happen. You've got harness the ley line dictating action in the middle. Then you've got claim jump, which is pushing things to the middle. But you have take prisoner and assassinate, which can kind of happen anywhere. It's a pretty interesting pool. So, Matt, before we kind of get started, what was your feelings or your thoughts on the pool when you first saw it?
All right. So the list, actually, we never mentioned this, Craig, but the event was 40 stone lists. I think the organizer was a bit worried that with the new rule set, people might need some extra time.
Yeah.
But actually, most of the people there part of a crew that have been playing really regularly, even 2 to 3 times a week. So everyone, I'm fairly sure everyone finished every round in time. So there was no one who didn't get to turn 5, which is really good. But the 40 stones definitely helped with that. But it made list building quite difficult. In this list, I took Strook with the Whisper. I took obviously his totem. I took Valley, Anna, a single student, and 2 necropunts. I picked breakthrough, assassinate, and obviously we were playing in idols. My opponent took Old Major, Sour, Whisper, Penny, Slopholer, and Wild Boar. We both deployed off across from each other on one side that was a little bit more open than the other. I think we both kind of have some synergies that we want to keep within our, the 6-inch bubbles.
Yep.
I've got a pretty Von Strook, I think, for most players, actually has a pretty formulaic opening where he just gives everyone focus, pushes forward, gets an upgrade on a model, buys his time, and pieces start coming forward. I think Jeremy was a little bit over-aggressive with his crew, and I was able to get Valley onto Old Major. Actually, typically I go for a softer target to try and get a summon, but because Old Major was so close and is so key to the crew, I switched up and decided I'd try and take him down. Because of that, I actually put the summon upgrade on Anna, and because I knew Valley wouldn't be able to do it on her own, sent Valley in, did a heap of damage, but boy, he's hard to take down with Ulix, preventing damage and being a henchman, stoning, just tons of tech, which can keep him up.
Well, speaking of tech pieces, Matt, I'm bringing Anna into Ulix, I think, is a very interesting pick because, and this is something I don't think people realize, but her aura, that her anti-place aura, can have a huge effect on summoners and anything that does a lot of replacing. Because when you summon and when you do a replace, it's a place which she can shut down.
Yeah, she shuts down. Yeah, so she shuts down both with. So she shuts down obviously the summons with the place effect, Gravity Well, but hostile work environment obviously huge as well in buff crews and synergistic crews like that. So both of them, I was really impressed. And I think lots of people play idols similar in that they try and push hard for a single side and then really almost like bank on that side.
Yeah.
Holding down one side and then shifting, especially in standard. The idea was that you straddle the center and your chosen flank, and almost pray a little bit that you can get ahead between the center and the flank, center and your chosen flank. While if you have to give some ground on the other flank, then you can, but eventually pull out your win there.
Right. So what was the final score?
So the final score there was an 8-2. He was really unlucky with some of the blasts. I actually got more than once. I got a severe blast with Von Strook. It's really important because obviously he's putting out the injured.
Yep.
I was able to get my breakthrough points off of summoned models, and also I summoned a Necropunk, which stopped one of his breakthrough points late game. He finally did get an idol on the opposite side, which I wasn't a fan of, but I was able to just work out that if I could ping the Necropunk with Fast from Von Stuck after he was given an upgrade, obviously, and then push in the 2 inches plus his leap and Fast, he was actually able to leg it on the other side of the table and get that last idol as well.
Yeah, Necropunks are good, and Von Stuck in general is good. You know, there's a lot of chatter and stuff on A Weird Place about, you know, overpowered, underpowered, and stuff like that. And the only reason Von Stuck is not a regular part of that conversation is because the box just came out and people aren't facing him enough. I think that we're going to start hearing some chatter about Von Stuck soon.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say that they just haven't played him because they haven't painted him up, which is fair enough. But, oh boy, he's not just strong, he's crazy fun. So he's got the perfect combination.
Yeah, I love how he can shift gears. I think it gives you a flexibility to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So James, what faction was your opposing faction in round one?
I played Rez's, and his master was Kurai.
Ooh, nice. That's I really like Kurai into that. Well, and who did you bring?
I took Tara, my absolute favorite outcast master for corrupt idols. So my list was Tara, Nothing Beast, Aeonis, Sign of the Void, the usuals. I also had Hans and a single Wretch. And my opponent had Nikirai, Ikirio, Datsuba, Lost Love, Onryo, Shikome, and 2 Seishin, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's a good list.
Yeah, it was definitely a list. I'd never seen Kurai before, never read anything about her before that event. So I was quickly looking up a few bits about her before making my list, and I wasn't sure what to do. I will admit.
It's tough. It's tough, James, when you go up against a keyword that you haven't faced before, and you can do what you did, which is kind of flip through some cards and try to get a sense of it. But the reality is that until you see the stuff on the table, you really don't know what the hell it does.
Yeah, you read one card, and then by the time you're reading the second card, you've forgotten what was on the first one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, the schemes I took were Breakthrough and Claim Jump. Absolutely love Breakthrough and Claim Jump with Tyra for obvious reasons. Tyra 5 AP, being able to time slip, basically a 1 AP leap. She's amazing. At the start, I had 4 stones. At the start, I stoned for hand, of course, trying to fish for those 12 atomes, just so I could summon 2 wretches, my usual go-to first turn. I couldn't get it. My highest card was a 10, so I only managed to get 1 wretch. Still not too bad.
Yep.
My usual starting strategy is obviously burying the Nothing Beast, burying a couple of my own models just to get them up the table before they've activated. I will admit, I put Tyra a bit too far forward at the beginning. I didn't realize how far Kurai can move Ikirio.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. Ikirio got into Tyra, 2 severes, almost killed Tyra. She was left on 4 health. Obviously irreducible, can't stone. Tyra spent the rest of the game basically running away from Ikirio. I got the Nothing Beast into him at the end of the first turn. Did a lot of damage, got her down to 2 health, gave her fast. My normal game plan is get models down to the 2 health and then keep them near those models. I can't remember the name of the ability, but
Vengeance? No.
Age to Destruction. Tyra stuck an obliteration keyword ability. Basically, if you activate within 4 inches of a model with this ability for aura, you take 2 damage. Not attack, so it ignores Incorp. I got Ikirio down to 2 health. This will kill her. Turns out he can move Lost Love really far as well. I was really surprised. Same thing happened. I just pushed Lost Love up the table. Lost Love healed Ikirio. Very scared. So I ended up just burying Ikirio, sitting at the other side of the table. Another one of the reasons I love Tyra so much for Corrupted Idols is obviously I can send my opponent to where they don't want to be. And if I'm on the right flank and he's dropping bombs on the left, I can just snap my fingers and I'm on the left flank ready to go.
Yeah, that flexibility, James, is huge, and it's so tough when you play against Kurai because Ikirio is the boogeyman in that crew, and you face such a terrible choice, which is, do I kill her, which means she's going to come right back, and if I don't time it right, I'm going to have to face her twice in the same turn, or do I keep her alive and let her irreducible damage tearing me to pieces. I think what's interesting with you playing Tara is that you've got a third option, which is I'm just going to bury her and just take her off the board.
Great option.
She can't be summoned and she's not, messing up my plans. So James, when you looking back at the game, well, first of all, what was the final score?
5-5.
Oh, wow. It was a tie. No kidding.
Yeah.
What do you think was maybe some of the crucial points that prevented it from being a loss or a win for you?
Well, I started out real strong. I had complete control of the idols. One of my biggest mistakes was going a bit too far up with Tyra, just because I didn't realize how aggressive he can be with the curio. I did start to lose out on board control. He just ended up getting all these summons. I started losing my models. I wasn't able to really keep up. And then, towards the end, I just kind of lost the board control.
I had to laugh at the fact that it was an entire list of Incorp versus an entire list of Vengeance.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Pain in the ass, I will admit. It was one of the things that kind of stopped me from being super aggressive because I didn't have the greatest of hands. I couldn't guarantee some high hits. So I'm like, do I attack this model? Like my wretches, they do 1 damage down to 0. I take the damage. Nothing based on you doing min 2. I'm taking damage. It was starting to rack up real quick.
So James, you talk about losing board control, which can you kind of explain that for somebody who may not know what you mean?
So I didn't have enough models by the end, so I wasn't able to keep my summons up, and he was just summoning all the models he needed. He took an upgrade intuition, lets him see the top 3 cards of his deck when he activated Curai.
Yeah.
So he was really able to get those summons. Basically, he just had more models than me, and I wasn't able to keep those idols locked down. He started to move them back over to my side, and I couldn't send them back.
Yeah, and that's an aspect of wargaming in general, but especially in Malifaux, that concept of board control can be a really big deal. And when you lose that, it can make things tough. And so for the listeners out there, when we talk about board control, and James, talk about it, he had a lot. Had a lot of models. You're talking about dominating pieces of the board, so areas on the map that you dominate. And because so much of scoring in Malifaux 3rd edition has to deal with proximity, either you have to be in a specific location for, like, say, harness or claim jump, or you have to be near a specific model for, take prisoner and stuff like that. When you have board control and you dominate areas on the mat itself, what you're doing is really critically inhibiting your opponent from being in a position to score. You coming out of it with a tie against Karai, because she's so good into idols, especially James, considering you had never played against her. Hats off, man. That's usually a recipe for a loss. So the fact that you were able to keep it close is good. Guys, let's take a quick break. When we get back from the break, I want to hear what happened now into round 2. Matt had a dominant win, so I'm sure he's going to have a tough matchup up at the top. And James very smartly tied so that he could have hopefully an easier match round 2. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Doug, and I'm a $5 patron of Third Floor Wars because Craig promised he'd play as the Arcanist if the Patreon reached $300. I want to see him suffer.
So how much are 3 or 4 of these episodes worth to you a month? Third Floor Wars has a Patreon, and if you think they're worth $1, $5, $20 a month, swing by and become a patron. We have polls to decide the next episode of the pod, along with early releases of articles and podcasts. Everything we release goes out to everyone, but sometimes our patrons get a head start. The link is in the show notes, or just search for Third Floor Wars on patreon.com. Thanks for the support.
Need to give our top Patreons a quick thank you. These are the people that have contributed the most to the Third Floor Wars. So big thanks to Nick Westbrook, Colin, Kevin Smith, Sam Newman, Stephen Morris, and Jeremy Peace. It's because of you guys that we just ordered some new video equipment that's going to make our live streams and videos even better. So thanks a ton. All right, so round 2, another interesting pool. It was corner deployment, which often could have a huge effect on everything, and it was plant explosives. And corner plant explosives is a lot different than standard plant explosives. So we got corner plant explosives. We've got everybody's favorite, search the ruins. We've got dig their graves, hold up their forces, take prisoner, and deliver a message. So, James, from my understanding, you ended up soloing Tara through this, right?
I did, yes.
And was that a situation where she was the best for these 3 pools, or you just felt more comfortable with her? What was the decision making there?
So I actually took 2 crews with me to play. Like, I had a couple of spare pieces. I could change it up if I needed to. So I took Tara and Parker. Fully intending to play Parker in Turf War, the game 3.
Yeah.
But then I came up against the other Outcast player, and he was actually playing Parker. He was playing Parker for all 3. And I'm like, I don't want to do Parker v. Parker. So I had to play Tara.
Yep. No, and like, don't get me wrong. Tara's really good, especially if you're used to her. So you bring Tara. So what was your 40 stone crew?
So game 2, same usual pieces: Tara, Karina, Nothing Beast, Aeonis, Sign of the Void. I didn't take Hans in the second game. I took Midnight Stalker instead. Great for plant explosives. Manipulative, fast, leaping. Just fantastic model.
Yeah, and your opponent?
So he was playing Yarn Low. Resurrectionist Yarn Low. So Yarn Low, Soul Porter, Izamu, Manos, Yin, 1 Kamenu, and Chiaki.
Man, that's now 2 rounds in a row where you went up against some strong keywords. Because Yan Lo in the right hands, especially Resur Yan Lo, can be nasty. So how did the game play out?
Well, so the game was 7-2, my victory.
Good for you.
So I think similar start as the last one. I didn't get very high cards. I only managed to get 1 red shout. And usual first turn, burying Nothing Beast, burying Scion, and helping them get up the table before they've activated. So the schemes I took were Search the Ruins and Hold Up Their Forces. Obviously, Search the Ruins is just for one I find pretty easy to score. Yeah. And the table favoured me for that one. I happened to win initiative. Win the attacker defender. So I got to choose where I was deploying, and I just had a lot of terrain. A lot of terrain on the opponent's half of the table, and he didn't have much on my half that he could actually score with. And then Hold Up the Forces I love just because, summon 2 wretches, they pop out in base contact with the enemy at the end of the round, and there's your score.
Yeah, that's a really good scheme with her, just based off of that summoning mechanic.
It's a very good summoning mechanic. I love it.
Yeah.
So when I started, I kind of went up 1 flank with Tara. He had Manos. I'm terrified of Manos. I've seen and heard about the things Matt can do with Manos. I'm like, I don't want any of this. I just did my typical Nothing Beast bomb. Tara goes up. I generate pass tokens with Aeonis. That's basically the only thing I do with Aeonis early turns. Unbury 2 models, get 4 pass tokens. Delayed until I was the last one to activate. Drop Nothing Beast. Nothing Beast goes to town on Manos, and then drops a wretch and Nothing Beast disappears again. I did manage to kill. He ended up running away with Manos. I just managed to kill him. It was beginning of turn 3. Nothing Beast did a lot of work that round. Did a lot of killing, a lot of burying. He actually ended up with 4 of my opponent's bombs at one point.
Wow.
So, yeah. That was, he only scored 1 point from the plant explosive, so that was a strong start for me.
Well, that's good. That's good target priority on your part, James, because Manos is one of those models where everything on his card says don't attack him, right? I mean, he's got just wonderful mobility. He's got the no charge aura, and he's built to discourage you from getting into him. But he may be the best model in a Yan Lo crew that can do the most disruption. Focusing on him and doing that was a smart play on your part.
Thanks. Actually, speaking of that no charge thing, that's one of the reasons I love Tara's crew. Obviously, bury Nothing Beast, and he just comes out in base contact with Manos. He doesn't need to charge. Yep. So that's just getting straight in there, and he's ready to go all his AP.
Was there something critical that happened, James, that made this a win for you?
So I went kind of really strong on one side. He's gone strong on the other flank. And what made it really strong was I was able to buried his Kamenu, who was running around with armor 3, move 7. So like, I didn't bother attacking it at all. I just buried Yanlo, and I just sent him back into his corner near Chiaki, who hadn't moved up. And then I was able to I left 2 wretches on that flank, and they just sat there scoring me my Search the Ruins. And then I was able to push real hard on his little cluster of models.
Burying him with a reliquary, that's rude.
One strong thing
that happened for him, I've got Nothing Beast up there. Midnight Stalker. Hadn't activated. He's got Manipulative. And he's just throwing random attacks from me on low. Stat 7, so he's 2 stats up on me. And he was just flipping severes. Like, so negative flip, 13, 12. He hits. Another negative flip, 12, 11. He hits. Ended up killing Midnight Stalker. Got through the demise and then killed him a second time just because ridiculous negative flips. Of course, his deck was a bit sad after that. So one of the best points for me was just, as I said, getting him on the other side, and then I was able to use, wretches to pick up his bombs that he placed or remove scheme markers. He was also doing Search the Ruins. Aeonis being able to just spit out a Void Wretch, 3 inches away from him, not in combat, and just walk and interact to pick up a scheme marker. Very great anti-scheming. They're on one side of the table, and now they're on the other.
Yep. And that really hurts a Yanlo crew if you can get Yanlo out of position, because one of the keys to being good with Yanlo is making sure Yanlo is in exactly the right place during the game. So your ability to displace him had to have had a huge effect.
One of my biggest problems is I kept winning the berry duels and probably shouldn't have been declaring them. I'm just used to there's the time I declare it. I only got 1 point for my hold up because I kept burying my hold up targets. Like, I'd get to the end of the stage, at the end of the turn, I'm like, I'm ready to declare hold up. Like, wait a minute, where are the models? They're buried.
So here's a pro tip for you, James. When we say denying schemes, we mean the opponent's schemes, not your own. That's funny, but it was just out of habit, right? You declare the trigger and bury stuff.
Yeah, especially with the wretches. It's build 10s. I'm always declaring with the wretches, so it's just like, bury trigger.
Oh, that's funny. Matt, what did you go up against?
Oh, I just have to laugh at the irony because I also denied my own points. I took with Molly, and you never take prisoner with Molly because they just do multiple activations in front of Let's Caress and kill themselves.
Yeah.
So you get your first point, but never the second. So I played Molly into McCabe Explorers, which was really interesting, but our Explorer players have been hammering like 2-3 games a week, very experienced, very confident with the faction. So despite only having the 2 master picks, he did really well. I think he placed 4th overall. So it was Molly into McCabe. It was corner with Plant, as we talked about. The lists were, he took McCabe, Sadir, and Triple Hucksters, and nice. I took Molly, Archie, and Manos. Of course, was an auto include as soon as you declared McCabe. Myers, the Lantern of Souls, countering to Myers was really key. I also took the Dead Rider for more ruthless because he had triple Hucksters, and they all have manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the speed was pretty essential. I had an interesting opening move. I had one of the most garbage hands I've ever seen, and I was looking for a way out, and I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll punch Molly with the Wayward Mariner. So what I did is first activation, I got initiative. I hit Molly, cheated the defense, so it does no damage. Pinged her for the heal, cheated the card and the heal. Walked forward, discarded a 5th card, and accomplice into Molly, drawing back up to full 6.
Nice move. That's a move that's not real obvious. And so for those of you listening that aren't familiar with Molly, at the beginning of her activation, she has the ability to draw up to the hand size of your opponent. So what Matt does there is nice, which is, dump his garbage hand and accomplice into Molly and just get, how many cards did you end up drawing, Matt?
So that was 5 cards. The attack and defense from Wood, the ping for the heal, and the cheat the heal card itself, despite no damage. And then it's a 5th card for the actual accomplice, and you just keep your 1 average card and you're set to go.
And all of that at the cost of a totem activation.
Yeah, and you still get one walk, so you're not completely left behind. And I just did ride with me later anyway. So he was fine. The biggest downside is being forced to activate Molly, but you're on corner anyway, and so it's very likely that all I'm going to be able to do is a couple walks, maybe a focus anyway. There's no markers around, so pretty much I was just going to be legging it up the board. And the other reason I was happy to go with her is because the board was one of the lightest on terrain, and there was a central forest where if I could get to it, it was pretty much Late's Caress was going to be active all game and really relevant. Yeah. And it really was. So the player was really smart, though. He knew exactly what he had to do. He went the opposite way of Manos. He stayed out of Late's Caress with McCabe, and he used the terrain to his advantage in a really, really clever way. He's a good player. Anyone that says McCabe can't do damage is well off mark.
No question.
Yeah, you read his card carefully. He might have a min of 2, but you're looking at like dozens of jewels. He every time he moves over models, they take Def 13 jewels. He has a built-in trigger to move as well. So he's doing his ride with me, 3 models, move 13 jewels, take 2 damage. Then he's charging back over them, move 13, def 2. And then every single attack he's doing is automatically moving over again. So that was
he puts your hand under so much pressure.
Yeah, it's massive. The only thing that saved me here is that because of Late's Caress, his angles and the models he could get over were limited by Late's Caress. So that was really good. I had to dump my whole hand keeping Manos up. But as soon as Manos, I think Manos was left on 2 health. And after that, it was kind of all she wrote. Manos was pinging Dead Rider for all the suits he needed, ended up bringing McCabe down and still having the leap left to jump over and do the free attack onto Sadia, and I red jokered damage flip. So
very nice.
It was a bad turn I think, so Manos basically killed McCabe and Sadia in one activation just about. He's a monster. I mean, he got a few bits of damage on the turn before, but for the most part, that's how it went down.
And especially at 40 stones, you take out those 2 key pieces, and I don't care how good the hucksters are, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had Archie and Dead Rider with Ruthless, so they were the hucksters were kind of a piece of cake, really, and they're just incredible pieces. So I'm just really lucky that I've got these incredibly maneuverable Ruthless pieces, because I couldn't imagine trying to deal with those without these pieces.
Yeah, and this also has to do with kind of meta knowledge, and it's good to be familiar with as many different keywords as possible so that you know what can be key tech pieces, right? So knowing, the demise ability on McCabe, and knowing that hucksters are going to be there and that manipulative is going to be key there, it's good. And that just comes from experience. It's also why I think a lot of people will listen to some of the deep dives we put out, even though they don't play that master, because it gives them, a sense of what that keyword does, so that when they face that keyword, they might be able to do a little bit of attack against it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you knew fairly well that I was going to bring Manos. That's why he played as safe as he possibly could. But Manos it's easy to redeploy. It's not a trouble at all. And he wasn't comfortable with bats in that particular pool. I think part of it is he said that bats really actually requires quite a bit of terrain, and it was fairly terrain light, and so he didn't want to have to deal with that. And I imagine with the pool, plant and search, hucksters are kind of a go-to anyway. So as much as he hated the McCabe into Manos, he ultimately it was kind of good enough on the other side to go for it.
So 2 strong wins from these guys in round 2. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about round 3, which, of course, is where we ended up with Matt winning and James in second. So we'll be right back.
Howdy friends, Craig here. With 3rd edition Malifaux released, it's time for you to get a new mat with new deployment zones. We've tried every mat in the business and nobody has better quality and selection than Mats by Mars. They're waterproof and they roll and unroll easily, and they're even wet erase Marco compatible. They offer over 35 designs and let you add M3EO overlays for making deployment and positioning a breeze. Check them out at matsbymars.com. They are offering a sweet discount for our listeners. After you found the perfect mat, use the promo code 3rd floor to get 10% off your entire order. If you really want to support us, in the notes of your order, request that our logo be put in the corner of your mat. It's the only way to make the best mat in the business even cooler. Again, that's Mat by Mars. Use the promo code 3rd floor to get a 10% discount. Details are in the show notes.
So final round, we've got a flank turf war pool. We've got detonate the charges, search the ruins, power ritual, outflank, and vendetta. So Matt, what did you face and who did you bring?
Oh, so I faced Kyle. He's been playing Euripides for like a couple of months, pretty much every game. This guy owns nearly every master in the game, I believe, and wow. He's a great player, but he doesn't focus on single masters enough. But I knew as soon as he played a master as much as this that he would happily walk to top table, even though he was soloing Euripides and everyone knew he was. So. And Euripides definitely has his limitations as much as he's awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, so I wanted to really wanted to take Shtuk into this pool, but I ultimately decided on Molly for the marker removal, and also because we'd played this mirror before and he kept Molly in a ice pillar for 4 rounds in a row. And so I took Molly, Necrotic, Rogue Necro, Archie, True Cruellians, and the Dead Rider. The reason I took the Dead Rider, apart from just being a great piece, is I really wanted to live the dream with the Soulfire trigger, which is a 2/3/4 ignoring hard to kill, and pretty much his whole crew is hard to kill. Mm-hmm. So I thought there might be like a golden turn late in the game where we'd be able to blow a few savages off the table with a single lightning action. And I did get to live the dream, so that was quite
nice.
Cool. It was an absolute brawl in the middle. He had some really interesting opening moves. He puts a ice pillar behind Thune and then pushes him into it with the giant. And the giant's trigger is that he can place into base contact with any marker. So Euripides had set up a wall in front of Molly because Molly had gone forward again into a forest in the center trying to get Lath's Caress off, which would have been really good, but I got blocked off by some ice pillars. And then I got a by your side Cruelligan in there to knock a couple of the pillars down straight away, but then Thune got thrown in with the giant trigger. Throws him into a pillar, transports to any pillar, and first turn already trying to bury Molly. No Thune, he's got this incredible trigger which turns a model into an ice pillar basically. Yep. And the biggest, nastiest part about it is not an opposed duel. So if they have the card, you are buried. He often stones for it and gets you in there. The only way to get it out is to break the marker, and unless you're what is it, Mad Dog. The easiest in general. Yeah, so it ended up being quite a brawl in the middle. There's a few pieces going after the flanking turf markers. Ultimately, I had to make a decision whether I was going to keep scheming with Archie or bring him into the fray. And I thought that I was going to eventually lose that fight in the middle and maybe a little bit too early. And I was confident I could eke out the win on the flanks with the pieces I had. They're a little bit tougher, like the Rogue Necro was going down the same flank as, for instance, the Cyclops, and I was pretty confident in that fight. And then something else on the other flank. So I put Archie into the middle, and it was the right move. He did go down, but it was long enough to stall out the brawl so that I could get Molly doing work and also the Dead Rider without having to lose pieces by being overwhelmed by his. I think it was turn 4. I got to finally do the Dead Rider explosion and finished off a Savage and Cyclops and being 1 damage shy of killing Euripides himself. So that was cool. Would have been cooler if I flipped the one to kill the Euripides, but, can't have it all for a lightning action. So Dead Rider's a bit of a MVP this game. What do we have? Oh, so at one point, I think it was turn 2, Molly and Archie were both in pillars. So I got the Wayward. Yeah, it was horrible. He was stoning for it all, got all the cards. And their insane ability, what's it called? Is it not intuition? It's the one where they take a damage and use the card on their discard pile.
It's so good.
It's so strong. So Wayward popped Molly out, and luckily, of course, only because of Accomplice, Molly was able to activate straight away and get Archie out. So that was strong enough to get me ahead there, I think. One thing I got to stop doing is I like taking Vendetta with Krulligans just because you can go very last, be anywhere on the table, and then try and buy your side out of there. But it just never works for me. The min 1 just doesn't quite cut it. Doesn't quite work. So
yeah, Vendetta's a tough scheme, man. There's so much that has to be true in order for you to score, and it's not an inefficient scheme, right? So a lot of it is just showing up and doing what you're going to do anyway. But the problem is that you have to meet so many requirements to score, and it's so easy, even unwittingly, for your opponent to counter it. They may not even know you have it, and they're just doing what they do, and suddenly you're like, well, all right, now I can't score Vendetta. That's great.
Yeah, I do think though that undergraduates are a bit of an exception there. They are just Vendetta models.
I really like the undergraduates too. We got to stop talking about it, Matt, or we're gonna get too much attention.
Just about to a cast on those guys alone. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like Euripides. I've played against Euripides a couple times, and there's a few things. One, it might be the prettiest of all the new crews. Those models are gorgeous, and painted right, they're really good. I think there's a lot of really interesting abilities that Euripides has. He plays a little bit different than everybody else, which I really, really like. The struggle, I think, is a lot of large bases, which makes positioning and movement a little bit tough. It's easy to get in your own way. I'll be very interested to see, as people get more and more reps with Euripides, kind of where he falls within the Neverborn faction, because I think there's a lot of power to unlock there. And it sounds like your opponent there understood a lot of that and took advantage of a lot of that. And Thune is just a great model.
I think a lot of Euripides movement shenanigans are just not obvious.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem there. It's not your built-in leaps. It's not, your ride with me's and stuff like that. They're triggers on attacks and hitting your own models and triggers on lightnings and stuff. So if you see a really good Euripides player play, you'll be very surprised how quick they are. Half his crew was in my corner in flank before I could even get across the board, and I'm playing with Archie and Dead Rider and stuff like that. So.
James, how about you? What did you bring into? Well, we know you brought Terra into round 3, but what did you face?
So this is when I was supposed to be playing Parker. I ended up versing Parker, so I took Tyra instead. You might have heard me laugh when you're talking about Vendetta. So one of the things I took was Vendetta. One of my favorite things to do with Vendetta is take the Sign of the Void, the 6-point henchman, whose damages 3, 4, 5 when she's buried, and so is the enemy model. Absolutely love her for Vendetta. She's just amazing. And she
is a great tech piece when Vendetta's in the pool.
And even better, in GG0, you can now pick same cost models. So she's a 6-point henchman who can pick like a 6-point minion and just absolutely destroy them. And he can't retaliate because she's just buried the whole game.
Yep.
So anyway, I took Search the Ruins. I took Outflank. My opponent took Search the Ruins, and then I also took Vendetta. Crew was pretty much the same. Tara, Nothing Beast, Karina, Scion of the Void, Ionis. Didn't take Midnight Stalker. I took Hans. Something I didn't say for the last game. So game 2 and game 3, I took 7 stones. I find stones something super important with Tara because obviously she's the summoner.
Yep.
Needs to get those high cards, and if you don't get the suit, you get a stone for it. But for game 3, I got really lucky with my hands. First turn, I drew the 12's Tome. I didn't even need to stone, just got it.
Nice.
Turn 2, I got the 12 atomes as well. I ended up, stoning, got 12 atomes. So first turn and second turn, just popped out 2 wretches.
That's good. But you were kind of due though, James, weren't you? Because you were getting crap hands at the beginning of round 1 and round 2, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I was only able to get my first round, first game and second game. My highest card first turn was 10, so I couldn't even summon a hunter. It just had to be like a single wretch, which is still worth stoning for because it's 1 stone for a 4-point model. So my hands were much better in the third game. Just kept summoning. It was fantastic. The terrain favored me again. It was just a lot of cover, really high buildings. It was kind of like a ruined style thing. So he's playing Parker. He's getting stuck. He's getting no sight lines, and I'm just leaping around everything, incorporating through everything. Absolutely fantastic.
How did it finish?
So I got 7-2.
7-2.
So I scored the 3 for a turf, 2 for outflank, and 2 for vendetta.
Very nice. So any critical moments or points you thought that were particularly interesting?
So my opponent did not take stones. He's had 0 stones. He did have a prospector, but even when I take a prospector, I still have to bring stones just because you never know what's going to happen. You need that extra bit of padding. So first turn, he did shut down my handing out fast. So I wasn't able to unbury my nothing beast, which was pretty sad. Second turn, I got fast out on Parker. I love putting fast on masters because they can't use it, and I just get all the benefits. He had Parker next to Mad Dog, so I popped nothing beast out and just went hard on Mad Dog. I play a lot of Parker, so I know exactly how terrifying he is. Yeah. And I was able to kill Mad Dog real early with nothing beast. A bad decision I think my opponent made was investing a lot of work into these random wretches I was summoning. Killed 2 of them first turn, killed 2 of them second turn. I'm like, they're wretches. I have no problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get full control of the turfs as well. I think he had 1 turf left, and I just had all the outside ones.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And again, it's something that we talked about before, James, is knowing your target priority. When you go up against Parker, you need to deal with Mad Dog as fast as possible.
And Sue.
And Sue as well, yeah.
He's terrifying.
So, boy, oh boy. So congratulations, guys. First and second place, a nice, healthy group with 16 players. Let's take another break, and then I'm going to need to learn about what the hell is going on in Australia. So, we're going to talk about Malifaux. We're going to talk about Malifaux, in Australia, and, we'll cover a couple other hot topics. We'll be right back. Howdy folks, Craig here. Now if you love gadgets as much as we do, you're going to love the new Third Floor Wars Gadget Bundle from Schooner Labs. Branded with the logo of your favorite podcast, it comes with 2 measuring multi-tools, a compass stepper for those tight and important movements, along with a compact dashboard to track your turn, strat, and scheme scoring along with your soul stones and pass tokens. It is the perfect bundle for anyone who plays Malifaux or just wants to look cool while doing it. The link is in the show notes. Check them out and help support your favorite gaming podcast. So, like I mentioned at the introduction, I've been really anxious to get some people from Australia or even New Zealand on the show because, back in 2E, there was really kind of these 3 box casting areas. You had some really good podcasts coming out of the US with Schemes and Stones and Max Value. Out of the UK, we had the Flippin' Weirds and we had Arcane Reservoir. And then I think there was like 3 or 4 really good podcasts coming out of Australia. And, now into 3rd edition, we've lost a lot of that. So Matt, just in general, what do you think? How is Australia doing as far as coming back from the transition? And are we seeing Malifaux played not only in your area, but are you hearing about it being played, over down south and over east?
Yeah, so I think we're just a bit slow on the uptake. It doesn't help that obviously getting stuff down here is quite a lot harder than in the US. It's always naturally a little bit slower. But the buzz is the exciting part. People are really excited to play. Even the old podcasters, they're still playing Malifaux. They're still talking about Malifaux. They just probably haven't kicked into gear for the podcast stuff. But I think it's just all a matter of time. There's a hunger for it. There just needs to be places to play it and people to push it. And I think that it's just a little quiet there. Like, for instance, here, we're just absolutely loving it. Like, our regular game nights are 10 to 12 people in one store. And that's every week. We're really consistent. Lots of new people playing, lots of the old people coming back, and just a really healthy, busy meta. It's great.
So, Matt, I know that you that you listen to the podcast a good bit, and you and I have chatted offline a couple times. The one thing I'd be curious about is there anything that you've heard talked about in by either some of the U.S. players or some of the U.K. players that I've had on the show? Is there anything that you hear and go, we don't see that in Australia, or that's odd. I'd be curious to know if there's anything, any dissonance between how the game appears to be played in the US and UK versus what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really fascinating. I guess people develop their own little metas and just can play the game in lots of different ways. It's fascinating. Things that things that are considered garbage in one podcast, people here will all love, and I think it's just meta dependent. Like it is. It just goes to show that the game is so diverse that a piece can be amazing in one meta and terrible in another, just by the nature of the meta that it's living in. But also, we sit on the fence with things like between the UK and the US. I think, like, for instance, the single masters argument is a fairly hot topic. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I, for one, think singles is better. Some people think, more of the US way. I think at the moment, isn't it? It's a lot more popular for allowing double masters. Is that right?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. So, there's similarities, differences, and I think it's just being our own little environment here. We're just taking bits and pieces from both, so it creates our own unique little spot.
So, that's something very unique about your country and your continent is it takes a good bit of effort for you to visit some of the other parts of the country, just by geographically. Are you seeing a lot of disparity from meta to meta as far as what people are bringing and thinking and playing, or do you think that there is enough? Well, first of all, how much cross meta play is happening in Australia?
Like, are people taking the same pieces that they're taking in the US and the UK? I think to an extent, absolutely. I think it depends on the person. Some people purposely avoid it. Like James, for instance, is a special snowflake, and he will play what people say is garbage. In Mark 2, he religiously played Jackdaw and Parker and made them work, and was really good at it because he just invested the time and effort. And it just goes to show that even a master that is a little bit under par, if it's played by a good player and it's played, to the maximum efficiency, that you can really make anything work.
Yeah, no question. In fact, I'd completely forgotten about that, but that was an ongoing joke in second edition that you guys had different Parker cards than the rest of the world, because it was the only Australia that was saying Parker was any good, and everybody else was saying he was garbage. I completely forgot about Australia thinking Parker was good. But to your point, though, Matt, it's so much more dependent on the player and the player getting their reps in. And I think that's even more true in 3. So, James, I'd be curious, as somebody who played in 2, and is now playing in 3. What's kind of your hot take on this 3rd edition? How are you feeling about it? How's it going?
I'm enjoying it. I think it's great. A lot more streamlined. Like just removing all those ridiculous amount of conditions and the abilities that all do the exact same thing but had completely different names. It's made it so much better. Even though I've kind of fallen out of favor with my favorite masters. Like, as Matt said, I absolutely adored Jackdaw in 2nd edition. Not so much in 3rd edition. He's still amazing, but it's just not for me. But all in all, I honestly think the 3rd edition changes have been much better for the game.
Yeah, I think that your points are spot on. The one thing that surprised me, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, James, but I was surprised how what really on paper seems like small changes from second to third, I feel almost made it a different game.
Definitely. It's definitely been so, like, just the smallest changes. Like, one of the main things was, just like for Hamlin, play, his blight was a condition. And if you took condition removal, it just completely shut him down. Yep. And now that blight's no longer a condition, you can't just remove it. It feels like you actually get to play with what you've brought instead of just getting shut down completely.
So one other hot topic that I want to close out here with, when we were recording this, we're recording this in mid-November, and pretty much the way to break your phone is to go into a weird place and search a weird place for the word Shenlong. Your phone's memory will run out. So James, I would like to know, not necessarily just about Shenlong, but what are your thoughts and feelings about kind of this discussions of, so-and-so's is overpowered, he's broken, and he needs a nerf. I'd be interested to know kind of what your take is either on the Shenlong conversation or the conversation in general.
I honestly don't think he's as ridiculous as people making him out to be. Like, obviously, he's definitely strong. Being able to just, I'm stat 8, and after flipping, it's huge. Like, it is impactful.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't complain about some change. Maybe making it a bit harder to get chi, or even dropping it by what stats are only +1 instead of +2. But I honestly don't think he's broken as the people are suggesting. And he's definitely got ways to counter, and I think people are making it a bigger issue than it really is.
Well, how about you, Matt? What do you think?
Oh, I was just saying, it's easy when you're on the Reza side because we've got Von Stuck. And, oh boy, that's a fun counter. Yeah, academic superiority, I think it's called, completely ignores upgrades. So it's always nice to have the top dog have one horrible counter.
Yeah, but the balance to that, Matt, which I think is all of a good thing for a good ecosystem is, So, our Von Stuck is really can help tone down Shenlong. The problem is that if you didn't happen to pick Von Stuck and they bring Shenlong is a beast against everything else in our faction.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, like, how many of our pieces are hard to wound? And it's awful. And I mean, the other thing is, a lot of us are almost, maining Molly and in a competitive matter. And if you drop Molly into Shenlong, that feels like nearly an auto loss.
Yeah. You'd have to be really good or up against a really bad Shenlong player to get an easy win with Molly into Shenlong. I think you guys, especially when we were talking about Parker and second edition and stuff, and I still think it's true in 3, is, I mean, everybody has their new baby skin on right now. And I think that, it's really hard to, with any authority, be able to make a call on any of these masters. The reality is that no matter what Kyle and Matt do as far as balancing and, boosting models and nerfing models, even when they're done with that, they're going to end up with another model that's the best, not only in this faction, but also in the game, because something has to be first. I think the key is going to be, and I tell you what, for a couple reasons, I think that Matt and Kyle are more than capable of making this happen. What is key is that I hope that they avoid what happened with Sandeep and Nico in second edition, where it wasn't that Sandeep and Nico were great compared to everybody else, because they were. But what really made them frustrating is that they were so much better than the rest of their faction that if you were an Arcanist, you played Sandeep, and if you were a Resurrectionist, you played Nico, and they shut down the rest of the faction as far as what you could be bringing. And I'm seeing a lot less of that. Even in 10 Thunders, everybody who plays 10 Thunders doesn't play Shenlong. There's a lot of other good masters and keywords in 10 Thunders. So that makes me hopeful. Well, guys, really enjoyed this. And we definitely have to have you both back on to talk some more, because it's really important to me that this podcast tries to cover as much of the world as possible. Earlier we had a episode with we got a chance to hear from Russia. And I just want to do a quick shout out to other parts of the country. Reach out to me on Facebook because I really want to have as many different parts of the world on this show because I think it's useful for people to hear other perspectives. Before we wrap up, though, Matt, is there anything that you want to plug?
I've got another event on in August. In December. That's nearly sold out. So a month in advance. That's how keen our players are. So.
Nice.
It's called A Weird Christmas, and it's just a real fun event with lots of raffles and stuff like that. So there's a few tickets left, but nearly sold out.
I love how active your meta is. We're blessed here in North Carolina to have a real active meta too, and it rising tide brings up all ships. You guys get a lot of games in, get to play and beat the hell out of each other, and it just makes the whole thing stronger. So that's great. How about you, James?
Yeah.
Well, just one thing I want to say. They're talking about that active meta. I really want to thank Matt for that because he has gone above and beyond as a henchman to build this meta. We wouldn't have this meta if it wasn't for him. Yeah, he's just gone all out to really bring this together.
Yeah, that's awesome. The only problem with Matt is that he introduced you to the game and you're podiuming him left and right. So I'm sure there's some people in your meta that wish that, that's great that Matt built a strong meta, but did he have to show James the game?
I'm not the only boogeyman in our meta. There's definitely there's definitely another one. He's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That brings up, we weren't able to get the gentleman that got third place. But Matt, can we talk real quick about who placed third and talk about him as a player because he deserves it. He made podium.
Yeah, absolutely, Aldo. That was the Kirai player that made James go draw. And to his absolute credit, he's quite new to the game and he's done exceptionally well. So. Absolutely.
Yeah, I will admit he did pretty good against Tyra, considering he's never seen Tyra before. Like it was pretty good.
We have a guy that plays here in North Carolina. His name's Jeremy. Actually, you guys saw him on the live stream. He played Hoffman on our live stream, and he never played war games before. He's played board games and stuff like that, but never played a miniatures game before. And I think he's been playing like 6 months, and it's really not okay how good he is at the game. As fast as he's gotten, it just clicks with some people, doesn't it?
There's something to be said about not coming into a miniature game with the preconceptions that you have from other games. So I think that for instance, James came in and just had no kind of, the preconceptions like I was just talking about. A lot of people come in from other games and try and compare mechanics to other mechanics and try and the way they play other games, and it just doesn't work like that. It's not derivative. It's not like a limb off of a tree. It's a completely different animal.
That's a really good point, man. I hadn't thought about that. We do bring a lot of baggage if we've played a lot of other games when we start any game, including Malifaux. And sometimes that fresh perspective can be super healthy. All right, gentlemen, that was good times. I will be talking to both of you soon, and we look forward to having you back. And for everybody listening, take care.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks.
Be sure to check out our shop on thirdfloorwars.com for the latest gaming apparel and gear. While you're there, check out how the USFO Tour is shaping up. How does your conference compare to the others in the United States? Where do you rank nationally? Get those models built, painted, and on the table so we can see you at the US Masters Invitational in October of 2020. Also, rate and write a review on this podcast for us. It really helps us find people almost as cool as you are. Thanks for listening. Howdy friend, Craig here. Is this episode making you realize you need to buy some models? Gadzooks Gaming is my favorite online retailer because of their large selection, killer prices, and great customer service. Don't you hate buying an entire crew box when you only need one model? Gadzooks sells crew box models individually and saves you a ton of money. They even have free shipping to the US and Canada if you spend $100 or more. Swing by gadzooksgaming.com and make sure you tell them Craig from the Third Floor sent you. All the details are in the show notes.
That was perfect, guys. Nice and succinct.
It's so hard getting everything in order.
I just want to talk about everything.
Yeah, don't stress about it.
Everything at once, jumping all over the place. God.
Well, one thing to think about it is, what is it that's interesting, right? So that whole idea, nobody really gives a shit what you did in the tournament. What they're listening for is they're trying to get insight, right? They're trying to find something that'll resonate with them, that'll make them a better player. Yeah. Matt, where did you move? You changed your position relative to your mic.
Sorry.
That's all right. There you go.
1 second. My cat's being a nightmare.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. And I'll be able to bring your volume up, but there's a huge difference between the two, but you're good. That's good. So
I'll just lock this kitten who's driving me nuts in the other room. All right.
Yeah. Take your time. Let us know when you're back.
Cool.
I'm just going to say, I really hate Archie so much.
Oh, dude, Archie's so good.
Absolute nightmare.
He's so good, and especially if you bring healing into that Molly crew, above and beyond just the totem, Archie can be just rough, absolutely rough. And there's pieces that can hard counter Archie, but he's really good for his points. All right, so I'm going to wrap up this segment and take us to a break.
Another one of my big issues with Archie is that numbskull. Can't give him fast and Tara.
Oh, I love that James took Parker just because because I was like, if you drop Tara, I'm taking Archie in a bone pile and Sloth. Because Sloth into Tara. So you strip the fast with the slow and heal 3 for no cards, no nothing from range 10.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's brilliant.
All right, I'll bring us back. So halfway through my little speech about Euripides, I realized that you didn't play against Euripides. It was Matt. It's like, you're probably sitting there going, what the fuck is Craig talking about?
You can splash that into our section, Craig.
Oh, I'm going to make it editing magic to sound like it was like never happened. Are you kidding me? I'm an idiot. I just edit to sound competent.
Oh, no, perfect in our section.
I'll flip that over to my discussion with Matt, and people are going to be like, God, Craig's insight on Euripides is amazing. The problem is I brought it up into an outcast versus outcast matchup. Oh, yeah. Leaping by your side.
Which Von Shaw can do easy with the rocket boots.
Exactly.
And leap everywhere.
I can't wait, though, for someone to hire Levy into Von Steel and give the Waifs rocket launchers.
Yep. No, I completely agree. So, Jim, welcome to the third floor.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, God, I called you Jim. I'm going to try that again. one fucking name I wasn't supposed to say. All right. Give me a second.